Okay, so I want to be honest with you guys. I've been having a bit of a Jonah moment, where God tells him exactly what he needs to do, and he turns and he runs in the other direction. And that's what I've been doing. Today, I spent the most part of today just completely shutting myself off emotionally from people, from God. But right now, I am pulling a Becca moment, and I am off chasing the sunset, and I wanted to bring you guys with me. The funny thing about the story of Jonah is, like, I remember him being swallowed up by a fish. That's what I remember from my childhood and everything. Later on I learned about the part of him, like, completely just denying what he was told to do. But as I was reading through that, because I've been relating to it today, I came across the last chapter. Okay, I pulled it over quick so I can read this passage. Jonah chapter 4, verse 6. Now the Lord God appointed a plant and made it come up over Jonah, that it might be a shade over his head, to save him from his discomfort. So Jonah was exceedingly glad because of the plant. But when dawn came up the next day, God appointed a worm that attacked the plant, so that it withered. When the sun rose, God appointed a scorching east wind, and the sun beat down on the head of Jonah so that he was faint. And he asked that he might die, and said, "It is better for me to die than to live." But God said to Jonah, "Do you do well to be angry for the plant?" And he said, "Yes, I do well to be angry, angry enough to die." And the Lord said, "You pity the plant, for which you did not labor, nor did you make it grow, which came into being in a night and perished in a night." So, in that little passage, it just reminded me of everything that God gives us for our comfort, for our joy, for us to stop complaining, and we appreciate it in the moment, and then it's just a given thing that we have. But then as soon as that thing is taken away, we're like, I'm angry. I have the right to be angry at this. This was my thing that you took away from me. And that really makes me think about all of the plans that we've had that have just been taken away, it seems. And it seems like we have a right to be angry, and we do. We can still mourn those things. We can mourn everything that we've been missing. But it's also just by the grace of God that we even have those things. This also reminds me of James 4. So, in James 4, boasting about tomorrow, verse 13, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin." It just seems like a given that we would have school from August till May, and that we would be able to finish the rest of the semester. I'm sure none of us could have guessed that leaving for spring break would have been the last school that we had for this year. But our plans are not, they are not the solid foundation. Our plans are not what is true, as given as they seem, as automatic as they seem. It's all, it is all out of our control entirely. So God asks us and advises us to have the frame of mind and frame of heart to say, if the Lord wills, we will do this. if the Lord wills. And not only that, but if we fail to do this, if we don't find ourselves in that frame of mind, we're sinning because we know that's wrong now that we've heard this. Okay. Another passage in James, verse 9, 4, verse 9, is be wretched and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to gloom. Sometimes it's okay to not be okay. And as crazy as everything going on right now is, I'd say it's pretty okay to not be okay. In the next verse, humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you. We're encouraged to mourn, to weep, to feel these things. We just need to humble ourselves before God. We can mourn, we can weep, and we should, because that's what brings us closer to God sometimes. Just before this, verse 7 of James chapter 4. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. He will flee from you. If you push back on those lies that are in your head, the devil will flee from you. It's so easy to get trapped in a prison in your mind, especially with the isolation that has been coming from all of this. But you have to know that you are strong enough to resist the devil with God's help. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Not only can you resist the devil, if you draw near to God, he will draw near to you. If you are allowing yourself to listen to those lies and to just fall into those traps, you're letting yourself get closer to the devil and farther from God. But if you choose to resist, and if you choose to draw near to God, he will draw near to you. He always wants to be closer to you. The second half of verse 8 says, cleanse your hands, you sinners. Wash your hands, folks. And purify your hearts, you double-minded. I feel this is where there's no in-between. Ecclesiastes 3 has a passage on a time for everything. I wonder if right now has been a time to break down. Or maybe it's a time to build up. It feels like our whole lives were broken down, that everything was torn away, that everything was taken from us. But it's allowed us to build up ourselves and to build up our relationships with God. It's interesting that both of those can be at the same time. The funny one to me is a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. I always thought that meant sometimes people just don't want hugs. So, just stay away from that. No! But what if it means that we should refrain from embracing when there's a pandemic going around? I had never thought about that before. But that's enough of me talking to you. Let's talk to God. Please pray with me. God, thank you for everything that you've done for us, for everything that we don't appreciate. Thank you for giving us this time to reflect, and for giving us such a different experience that jars us enough to pay attention to you and to what's going on. I pray that as we move forward out of this time, that we don't forget everything that we've learned and that we've experienced through this time. I pray that we don't take for granted the plans that we have, and that we don't set our minds on those plans. pray that we keep in mind that we are not the people that schedule the universe. We are not in charge of any of that. And that we can only find our true anchor in you. And you are the only steady thing in our lives. Help us to know that it's okay to be hurt during this time. But remind us that there is joy in all of this. And that this is just a season and that we can move on through this. But we'll be so much stronger coming out of it. God, I pray that you just keep pursuing us in those moments when we just want to run away. When we just want to turn from you, turn from your word, turn from each other. I pray that we don't isolate ourselves any more than we're already isolated. God, help us to keep seeking you and to keep growing closer to you. We love you, God. Thank you for everything. Amen.